April 2012. Before I ask for a mover or a seconder, are there any amendments or adjustments anybody wishes to make, please? It's going right through to page 4.9. There being no amendments or to the minutes, I would ask for a mover, please. Move, Councillor Hickling. Seconder, Councillor Johnson. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Any matters arising for or discussion on the minutes therein?
Just one, Mayor.
Councillor Minship.
Just interested in the progress, Gareth, on the Owen Delaney and the situation there with the harvesting and.
Well, actually, would it be better for Councillor Downard to report on?
Or Mike? Yeah.
Councillor Downard, Owen Delaney Park plantation harvest and the replanting options. You had a mini, as I remember right, you had a little subcommittee. You guys are planning that way forward because it had to happen expediently?
Yeah, we've only had one committee meeting, but we're waiting until the harvest is completed, so then we can have a site visit.
And harvesting's commenced, started 2 weeks ago. Going well so far.
You look like you're on target of getting the return from the wood that you thought you were going to get.
Too early to tell.
That's it. Okay, any further matters arising from the minute? Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Williams.
Just a question for Ms McLeod. The submission to the Waikato Regional Council was a draft long-term plan. Is that what's the status of that?
Councillors, I gave your submission to the Regional Council on the same day that you heard submissions in Turangi. So it's been given. As I understand it, they are beginning their deliberations. I think it's next week. So they had a 2-week break, I think, in between their submissions and deliberations. So I wouldn't expect us to hear from that until probably the beginning of July.
Okay. Any further questions or any other matters arising? There being none, I will put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Moving now to number 5, which is the unconfirmed Taupo Airport Authority minutes. Any questions or mover, please? Where's Councillor Johnson? I'll second it. Any questions or discussion before I put it to the vote?
Yes.
Councillor Williams?
Apologies, was not at that meeting, but I'm just wonder if there's any progress on what stance the Taupo Airport Authority is taking on the Civil Aviation Rule Part 139.
Well, as it says there, we have prepared a submission, and we've put the submission in, and once again we wait for the process to. But they have the submission, so we're quite vehement in our submission because it's a big cost loading onto us if CAA were to get it approved and get it through. Mm-hmm. So Seamus Howard and John Fennell and Mike Groom, shall we say the expert aviators, as opposed to Councillor Johnson and myself, and they, as a subcommittee, formed the submission, and they are presenting and they're fighting quite hard on our behalf, as committee members too, of course, but with more expertise than we have, so they're carrying the baton in that regard, and there's nothing more can really report, is there, Cliff? Councillor Johnson? And the other one, of course, that is a great concern to your committee is the fact that Eagle Air are in the process during the month of June of doing a total review of where they fly to and from, etc., around New Zealand. Like any business, they like to try and be profitable. They had 3 engines destroyed between December and January this year at $750,000 each. They've got places like Gisborne who have tried to implement 180% landing increase to them. So Eagle Air are doing a very major overhaul of their own operations, and they've had a meeting with myself, and I think the other members were there. John Fennell was, the manager was, and a couple others. Carrie Hirurangi, and she will be reporting back to us in July. But reading between the lines, at this stage, we don't think Taupo is going to be affected to the negative. But that's fingers crossed, of course. Would that be fair, Chris?
I think they were quite positive in what we did. The meeting, we all thought the worst, but it came out positive. So.
And your airport committee is very, very conscious of the fact that this district around here relies very, very heavily on inwards and outwards from that airport. So we will fight hammer and tong to keep flights, even increase flights, rather than have them decreased. But we are at the mercy of Eagle Air. But as you read in some of the minutes, we have been extremely generous with things like landing fees and what have you, because we certainly don't want to lose the service. We see the benefit to the district as far greater than a few dollars.
Oh, well, that's fantastic, because it is for a small centre, we do have a good service, and we certainly want to hold on to that. So, thank you.
Okay, so is there anything more anybody wants to matters discussions from those minutes?
Oh, I guess one other thing was the cafeteria. Has there been any
that's a very good
progress
question, because when the cafeteria has always struggled, just to give a little bit of history, to be a profitable business, to reward someone for going out there and spending hour and hour and baking cakes and things like that. So going back in history, about 2 years ago, we made the cafeteria rent-free, because we saw it as a benefit to the travelling public, rather than just being a cash cow for us, because the lady wasn't making any money. At that stage, it was still not profitable, and it got a new owner. It had just become profitable about 6 weeks ago because of the caravan association out there, and then the lady's now broken her arm, so she can't run the cafeteria, and she would like to sell the cafeteria. So the cafeteria, as at 2 weeks ago, is on the market, and I believe Councillor Johnson was going to look into whether he could stimulate anything to happen there.
I think I said then I'd have to wait for the last 2 weeks to get over before I had time to.
Yeah. So you're still going out to try and see what
have
sort
a
of
look
business model.
And
because there are business models. I think it's Wanganui successfully run their own cafeteria, where it doesn't cost money, but they don't make a lot, but they successfully run a cafeteria, which is a good service. People waiting for a plane and buy a newspaper and a cup of coffee. So
I was getting some information from the manager too. He was trying to get their figures to see whether it stacked up.
But they had just started to come right for the lady. She's now broken her arm in 6 places or something. She had a bit of a horrendous accident, so can't really report more than that. But it is for sale, so if anyone's listening and wants a little home business, so to speak, it's apparently starting to become quite viable. So if there's nothing more on the airport committee minutes, I will put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Moving now to agenda item number 6.